Brittany, thank you for that beautiful, beautiful gift. By the way, for those visiting this church, I want you to just know we're a rather expressive and sometimes happy, clappy church. So when we hear something so beautiful, it's perfectly appropriate to say, thank you, God, for that. That was just wonderful. Wow. Mercy, isn't it true you hear a song like that and it transports you to an earlier moment when you first heard it or you would replay it? And I hope that's the case. Maybe it was Glamis or one of those camping trips or something. That one took me to Days at the River, actually. That's when I first heard it. And what a beautiful song. In a moment, I'm going to invite Danny to come and to share a written account of his father's life. How many of you know when you put onto paper a couple pages, it's woefully inadequate to capture all that somebody is and means to us, but it's going to be a beginning for us. And then following that, you'll hear from a family member or two, and then be ready for this. Then I'm going to say these words, who'd like to be next? And what I mean by that is it might be your turn to stand and to come up the stairs and stand next to me. Maybe you bring a friend with you, and you're going to share your tribute, maybe from the perspective of a longtime friend or perhaps a coworker or another aspect of life. We'd love to hear from you. We're going to have enough time to hear from at least 4 or 5 different people. Think about it this way. It's your gift to this family. I bet almost everything said today will simply amplify what the family already knows of this precious loved one. But there's going to be something said where they go, I did not know that. And they're going to add to the total repository of all their appreciation something you said, and they'll draw strength from it in coming years. So be ready for that. For those of you who are a little afraid of a microphone like this, I appreciate that. You received from Linda earlier a card like the one I'm holding that says share a memory, and you could use that card to write your precious tribute, or maybe 2 cards and put it in the treasure chest box in the foyer. The family will get all of these. Can you imagine maybe in a couple months they're gathered together and they're all together and they're about to have dinner, and they go, before we have dinner, let's take out 2 or 3 cards, and one of them is yours. And over the coming gatherings, over the years ahead, they're going to draw strength from what you put on these cards. So I'd love for everybody to participate in that. Danny, would you come first? And then I'll invite Courtney following you to share your tribute. And following that, I'll make that call to anyone who would like to come as well. How many of you know this? For a daughter, there's no one like your daddy. For a son, there's no one like your father. We appreciate you sharing with us.
Thank you, Pastor Doug. Perfect, thank you. Family and friends who have become our family, thank you so much for being here with us today to celebrate the life of Dan Sullivan, someone who clearly touched the lives of so many. Whether you traveled from near or far, thank you for being with us today. Some of you knew Dan Sullivan by Dr. Dan, others simply by Dan, but I had the distinct privilege of calling him Dad. I have struggled to find the right words, the right story to honor my father, but it's impossible to summarize the life of a man who was so abundantly full of life, someone who was larger than life, someone who lived life in the fast lane. I think those of you who knew my dad would agree that his life was so rich, so wonderful, so full of love and service to others, that doing his life justice would probably take hours and thousands of pages. But I will do my best to honor his memory with you all here in the next few minutes. My dad was shamelessly authentic, from the way he ran his businesses to his goofy demeanor, constantly being the life of the party everywhere he went. A proud dad's way or the highway kind of man. He was a man full of integrity, and you could see it in everything he did. To know my dad was to know his passion for driving, whether it was a motorcycle, a dune buggy, a boat, car, motorhome, electric bicycle, or a tractor. He was always at home behind the wheel. He found peace and joy in the simple act of driving. He was the engine behind our family. My dad was the most driven man I knew, and he never slowed down. In fact, he picked up the pace over the last several years as he added playing guitar to his long list of accomplishments and passions. Even in his final weeks, he continued to bamboozle us all with his random bursts of energy. Good men, like my dad, leave an indelible positive impact on their communities and on the world around them through leadership and service. My dad was a leader in his field. Over the course of more than 30 years, he provided unparalleled chiropractic care and service, and he touched and transformed the lives of so many in the San Gabriel Valley and beyond. At one point, it seemed like every police officer and sheriff deputy in the San Gabriel Valley was one of his patients. In fact, I distinctly remember being in a grocery store in the middle of nowhere, South Dakota, on a family vacation when I was 8, when a man approached me and asked if I was Dr. Dan Sullivan's son. And when I stammered yes, he began regaling me with stories of how my dad was an amazing chiropractor and just an all-around good guy. It seemed as though no matter how far away from West Covina my dad went, he always ran into a patient or someone he knew. But that was my dad. His hands healed your body, but his loving and caring nature healed your heart and soul. In my dad's mind, there was nothing he couldn't do. In fact, he started moonlighting as the handyman at Graziano's just across the park from here. He even tried his hand at cutting pizzas in the kitchen a few times. However, just like Lucy and Ethel couldn't keep up with the assembly line at the chocolate factory, Dan couldn't keep up with the pizzas coming out of the oven. So, long story short, the restaurant had its only ever net loss that day, and we all decided that a rule needed to be made that Dan was no longer allowed in the kitchen. But my dad was always willing to try. He was always willing to help out, which is actually how he ended up in the restaurant business in the first place, helping pull someone out of a ditch. My dad loved being a chiropractor and a restaurant owner, but one of his greatest passions was Glamis. The dune season begins around October and goes until April. And during that time, Glamis was his home away from home. Glamis is sometimes called the sand toy capital of the world. But for those of us who knew my dad, it was his happy place. He was a different person when he was in the sand. The more sand he had on him, the happier he was. The craziness of life simply faded away and was replaced with carefree exuberance. There's a rhythm to riding the dunes, and whenever he was behind the wheel, it was like he was effortlessly gliding across the sand. If you drive the dunes right, it can be the smoothest roller coaster ride you've ever been on. The enormous bowls are exhilarating to drive around in. The G-forces push you into your seat, and you can almost lose your sense of up and down running around the bowls. But not for my dad. He was usually the leader of the pack, setting the pace for everyone else. Driving with my dad was like watching a masterpiece come to life. No matter how crazy the ride, I always felt safe with him. Some of my best memories with my dad were at Glamis, whether it was cruising up Competition Hill, hanging out at Oldsmobile Hill, pulling a wheelie down the sand drags, or grabbing an ice cream at the beach store. Glamis was his place. Over time, sand dust was replaced with Cheeto dust, but my fondest memory of my dad will always be him barreling down the sand drags, yelling, "Gita Gote!" while pulling what seemed like a never-ending wheelie. While Glamis was his happy place, without a doubt, his greatest joy was being a dad. Spending time with his kids and taking care of his family was his greatest pride and joy. His love for his children was so abundant, and it was a true gift to see him become like a second dad to my beautiful wife, Alexis. One of the greatest honors I've had in my life was being his son. Of all the things my dad taught me, how to be a dad was his greatest lesson of all. He was the hardest working man I ever met, but he somehow always managed to show up for his children. He instilled those values in me, and they are values I, in turn, will pass on to my son. My dad would do anything for his children, and he made sure we had everything we needed and everything we wanted. Dad, you taught me how to be strong in the face of adversity and to never give up on myself. You taught me how to live with confidence. In fact, growing up, his parting words to me every morning when he dropped me off at school were, "Live with confidence." Dad, for Liam's sake, I hope I'm half the dad you were. I promise to teach Liam and Jackson how to live with confidence. My dad's love for his children, his wife, and his grandsons was a love without end. So much so that in his final days, he asked for his children constantly, and the sight of his grandsons continually brought a smile to his face. In his family, he found his greatest joy, and we in turn experienced his unending love. To all of you who were there for my dad, who cared for him like he was your family, and who has checked in on us, thank you. To his caregivers, thank you for the exceptional care, compassion, and love you showed Dan. Your support and kindness brought us all peace and comfort during a very difficult time. Theo Jerry, thank you for holding us together. And finally, to my mom, sister, and dear Grace, thank you for caring for Dan unconditionally and for bringing him so much peace in the final chapter of his life. To all of you here today, thank you doesn't seem adequate, but thank you nevertheless. We know that this is just the beginning of our grief and that it's going to be hard to live without my dad. Though his physical presence is gone, he lives on in all of us and in the lessons he left behind. As we enter the days ahead, please keep reaching out. Keep telling us stories about my dad. Help us find joy amidst our devastating grief by celebrating the legacy Dan Sullivan left behind. Dad, we love you and we miss you, and we find comfort in knowing that you're finally at peace. Send us a little sand or Cheeto dust from heaven from time to time. I love you, Dad.
I whispered to Danny at probably one of the most beautiful tributes I've ever heard. Courtney, as you come, I want to remind the rest of us that following Courtney, I'm going to say those words, who'd like to be next. If you were in grade school and you remember the teacher would make eye contact with you and then call on you, I'm not going to do that. You just come at your own will. Oh, wow.
Thank you. Sorry, just me and my emotional support water goes everywhere with me. You guys are gonna have to bear with me as I try to get through this. So your patience is appreciated. As I look around the room, my heart feels full as I see some of the faces that are here today. I see former patients, I see river crew, I see Glamis crew, NHRA buddies, West Covina PD, RSO, customers from our restaurant, former employees, former band members, friends, and family. And I want to sincerely thank you all for taking the time to honor my father and his life, and for walking this journey with us. Hi. My father had a larger-than-life personality. And sorry, I guess I should probably preface this. My brother and I've always said we have twin brain. He and I didn't share our speeches with each other before we wrote them. And they're incredibly similar, so you're gonna be hearing a lot of the same thing. So just so you know. My father had a larger-than-life personality, and to us, he was that and more. Growing up, I thought my dad was Superman. He was the strongest, smartest, funniest, and the most hard-headed person I've ever met. He knew everything about everything, and even if he didn't, he'd figure it out. My father loved 3 things in life: working hard, playing hard, and anything having to do with a red Solo cup. He was a natural healer. Over his 35-year career as a chiropractor, I had the pleasure of working with him for a few years towards the end of his career. I got to see how much he truly loved what he did and who he did it for. I've never seen somebody enjoy helping others feel better more than my dad did. I watched his patients turn into his friends, who then turned into family. My dad had a love for all things outdoors, and he took us to almost every state in the United States. He was always the happiest behind the wheel of his motorhome, with no actual plan or place to be, just the wide open road and one of us telling him which direction to go in. Whether we were in Lake Powell, Lake Havasu, Moab, or racing dragsters across the country, my dad was there in his motorhome with good times and a killer playlist in tow. If you asked me right now if I could spend one more day with my dad, it would undoubtedly be in Glamis. As soon as he stepped onto that graham cracker-colored sand, he turned into a different person. He turned into the best version of himself. When he was there, he was carefree. He didn't have the weight of the world on his shoulders. He went with the flow, found a way to make a good time out of any circumstance, and always found a way to party on, his favorite line. My times with my dad on any vacation always stood out to me, but none stood out the way Glamis did. He could blow an engine in the middle of the desert, and him and Chris and the guys would fix it and carry on without skipping a beat. I do have to say, one of the most impressive things I think I ever saw out in the desert was a time when my dad blew a tire or something. Can't remember exactly what it was. But he only had 3 tires somehow on his dune buggy. Chris, what happened? Yeah. He somehow managed to drive all the way back on 3 tires in the dunes, all the way back to camp, which was very impressive. And I have a video if you guys would like to see that. I spent more birthdays than I can count in those dunes. I grew up in those dunes. Heck, he taught me how to drive in those dunes, which may not have been the best idea, given that his car had twin turbos and was packing close to 2,000 horsepower. Not long after I learned to drive, he taught me how to use the slide brake, and that was some of the most fun I've ever had. Now I know where I get my lead foot from, so thanks, Dad. I was my dad's all-time favorite co-pilot. Sorry, Danny. Or so I like to tell myself. Watching my dad turn into the big kid he really was behind the wheel of his Funko, or dancing around the fire pit, are memories I'll replay in my head forever. Glamis will remain a sacred place in my heart, and I will treasure those memories and lock them away deep in my heart forever. My dad and I had a very special bond over music. A few decades ago, when he decided to take up guitar playing, the first 3 songs that he learned to play on his guitar were Brown Eyed Girl for my mom, Simple Man for my brother, and Sweet Child of Mine for me. And of course, who could forget Red Solo Cup by the legendary Toby Keith. Anytime any of us hear those songs now, it brings us to tears, and we can't help but think of all the time he spent learning to play them just for us, just to make us smile. Anytime he would hear the songs on the radio, he would make sure to sing them to us like he wrote them himself, and he was giving a grand performance. One of my favorite things about when he used to travel across country was that my dad would listen to the best songs. He had the best rock playlists, so naturally we grew up knowing just about every song there is out there. And it somehow takes us back to a different memory with him. He was always singing, usually in the motorhome, traveling somewhere, but always singing. Or better yet, playing the air guitar, playing the air drums, you name it. But every single time I hear a new song from his playlist, it always brings a smile to my face and sometimes tears to my eyes, but that's okay. On March 21st, 2019, our entire world came crashing down. We got the call that my dad was officially diagnosed with frontal temporal dementia. I still remember driving home. My knees were shaking and I could hardly breathe, and I just knew in my heart that this was it. When I look back now, I can't help but think that he must have known from a young age that his time on earth was going to be limited. So he made sure to compact all the time he had with us into our childhood and young adulthood. The way he explored the world with such wonder, the way he never sat down, the way he jumped in his motorhome without a plan or a care in the world and just drove until he couldn't drive any further, the way he constantly had somewhere to go but nowhere to actually be. I think God somehow put it on his heart that he would be taken too soon. And I think God allowed us to have the time that we did with him when we were younger to make up for it. Almost every weekend as kids, we were either drag racing in Glamis or at the river. And if we were home on the weekends, you knew that something was probably wrong. When we used to drag race cross country, my dad would be waiting for us after school with the motorhome and the trailer loaded, ready to go. We'd be ready to drive all the way to the middle of nowhere in Indiana, and would have the music blaring so that we could spot him from a mile away, even though he had a 6'4" frame and white hair. It was very easy to pick out of a crowd. But everybody always knew him for his goofy personality. But to me, what really made him stand apart was his soul. My dad had the heart of a healer, and he was the most kind man, yet fiercely protective. He was the toughest, yet the most gentle person I've ever known. He was the most badass dad, yet silliest goofball. When he got sick, it broke our hearts into a million pieces over and over as the days went on. As he lost every part of himself, he gained a new innocence. He was not himself anymore, but we could tell by the way he interacted with us that he still had the same heart and soul he always did. Whether it was offering us Cheetos or water constantly, offering up his seat, or literally giving me the shirt off his back one time in the middle of a restaurant because he thought I was cold. We could still see our sweet, loving dad deep inside, and his healing nature had become muscle memory at this point. And I understand now that it was all a lesson, and undoubtedly the hardest one I've faced thus far. As I watched my dad make a career out of caring for others, he was unknowingly preparing me for how to take care of him. As hard as it was, I'm so thankful we got to be by his side as this disease raged on. I'm so grateful that I got to hold his hand and guide him while slowly trading places with him. He began to look to me for comfort, and in times of confusion for answers to questions he didn't know as his mind slipped away. He couldn't verbalize it, but I know in my heart that he was comforted by all of our presence. One of the things my dad wanted most in life was to be a grandpa. He always used to tell Danny and I, when we were younger, that as soon as we had kids, he was going to kidnap our kids and bring them back to us when they were 18. He used to say he was going to take them to do all the things he did with us growing up, from racing to Glamis, the river, all of it, and that we would be able to fly in on the weekends and see our kids if he allowed it, but he would have full custody over them until said otherwise. After getting his diagnosis, we realized that his dreams of becoming a grandfather would more than likely not happen. But Danny and I were both fortunate enough to have our sons before his passing. But it wasn't the same because the disease had already taken its toll. Danny and I are forever thankful that we got to witness our father holding both of our babies the way he used to hold us, with pure love in his eyes and a palpable connection in his heart. Before I close, I want to take a moment to thank my dad's incredible caretakers at Estancia del Sol, where he spent the last few months of his life. The care that these women provided him, the love, the support, and not just for him, but for all of us, the constant calls and texts that they would send to us, checking in, making sure that we were okay because they knew all too well that we were all far from okay. The way that they absolutely adored my dad and everything about him. And they knew his quirks. They knew his love for Cheetos. And they learned how to speak Dan. They would tuck him into bed every night, kiss him on the forehead, and made sure that they all told him how much they loved him. There's only ever been one other person in my life I've ever seen have so much love and compassion for caring for others. And yep, you guessed it. It was my dad. I could go on for days talking about how much I love and appreciate these women, but I know that they know how much they mean to me. They are absolute angels on earth, and I am forever thankful for the impeccable love and care that they provided for my father. Dad, I hope you're up there giving them hell. You always were the life of the party down here, and I can only imagine how much bigger and better it is up there. Thank you for all the lessons. Thank you for the lashings that turned into lessons. But most of all, thank you for the love. Thank you for showing me what unconditional love truly is. I promise you this. I will never stop advocating for you, for this disease, and I promise I will never let your memory or your legacy be forgotten. Thank you for allowing me the honor of caring for you. You were there as I took my first breath, and I held you in my arms as you took your last. You'll always be my favorite person. Now party on, big guy.
I'm back. To my sister's point, neither my mom, my sister, nor myself shared what we were gonna say with each other, but clearly my dad touched us in such a way that there's a very clear overlapping theme in what we wanna say. My mom has written something and she's asked that I say it on her behalf. Daniel Patrick Sullivan was his birth name, but he went by many other names by people who knew him and loved him. I'm sure you'll recognize the name that you gave him as I read them off. Dan, Daniel, Dad, Pow Pow, Grandpa Dan, Dr. Dan, Sully, Danny Dog, Big Dan, Pops, Dan the Man, Theo Bolillo, Theo Dan, Uncle Dan, Iron Man, Skipper, and Chief. And one that I can't mention in church, but Theo Javier, you know what I'm talking about. Dan was loved by so many people and had a personality larger than life, always making everyone laugh, and people were just naturally drawn to him. He lit up the room just by being there. Always the life of the party, and he always made every party better just by showing up. Once we became parents, we lived our lives on the road in our motorhome, always towing some kind of toy behind us, either a boat, a Jeep, sandrail, junior dragsters, or a motorcycle. Always an adventure waiting for us. Before our trips, we would sit at the kitchen table and he would open the State Farm Atlas and ask us where we wanted to go. For the most part, no plan, just making it up as we went along. Needless to say, we've been to almost all 50 states, Mexico, and Canada. Danny was 3 and Courtney was 5 weeks old when we started traveling on our road trips. Dan showed us so many beautiful states, beaches, lakes, rivers, and national parks. We made so many friends along the way, we would catch up with friends that were traveling on the same journey. But mostly, we made the best family memories that I will always cherish and hold close to my heart. He used to say that he couldn't wait to do this with Danny and Courtney's kids. But that wasn't in the cards for him, I suppose. So, for now, I'll have to settle on pictures and memories of what could have been with Grandpa Dan, with Jackson and Liam sitting on his lap, driving our motorhome or boat. Even with his dementia, he still instinctively knew how to be gentle and loving with his grandsons. He lit up with a big smile when he would see them. He couldn't recall their names, but in his heart, he knew they were part of him. Dan loved his music. Because of his dementia, he didn't have the ability to put a sentence together or understand what was being said. But turn on the music that he loved, and he could sing almost every word. Once the music stopped, so did he. When the words fail, music speaks. We will always love you and forever miss you. Thank you.
It's a very special family. Those tributes from the children. Beautiful, fulfilling what the Bible says. Honor mother and father, for this is the first command with a promise. And then mercy, what you shared. Thank you for writing that out. And I had the privilege of many others watching you fulfill your marital vows for rich or for poor, in sickness and in health. And you did it with grace. Thank you for modeling Christ's likeness for us. Who'd like to be next? Those are the words I want to say. Would it be you? And if it is, would you just please stand where you're at and start making your way to the stairs on my right, your left? We have time for 3, maybe 4, and I'd like to hear from you if that's your intention. By the way, when you arrive, I'd love for you to share your name. You might be known by everybody, but just in case, I don't want anyone to miss who you are. Who would that be? It's kind of one of those moments where you're thinking, maybe it's supposed to be me, and then your spouse elbows you, and then you know it's supposed to be you. That's okay. Oh, she just did that to you, didn't she? That's all right. Come on up. Your marriage will be stronger for it. Make your way around over here where Greg is. Anyone else, if you would come now as well, and we'll just take our turns. It'll save a little bit of time transporting up here. Isn't this wonderful to hear these beautiful tributes? I mean, again, like I said, most of what you hear you already know, and it just solidifies what you know. But some of these things are going to be rather unique, and as they should be. Thank you.
There you go. Thank you. My name is Scott Walker. I'm here with my wife and a couple kids. And there was one thing that Danny was known for that wasn't in the list. I don't even know if you know this, but he was a mini trucker. In high school, he was a mini trucker, and when I hung out with the motorheads, so we just didn't get along. But soon found out who Danny was, and his personality and his love for people. You guys just nailed it. And that's just who he was. I got 2 quick stories. As you see behind me, you see the picture of the sand dunes. And so Danny always had a fast car with plenty of power. My cars were Volkswagens and did not have the power. So when you run the dunes, if you have the power, you can go up and then down, up and then down, up and then down. So Danny would lead, up and down, and I'd stop him. I said, Danny, I get motion sickness. So I need to lead because we're going to run the dunes on the tops, nice and flat. I'm glad to see he learned that, how to run the dunes and run them correctly. It was fun. We did a lot of great times with you, your family at the dunes, and Powell. And the other story is, Danny was always full of life, no matter the situation. So we went down to El Golfo, Mexico. He built a new car with a new motor, got down on the beach, big wide beach. He nailed it, blew the motor up. Okay, first day. And so we got it back up to the trailers, and it was no big deal because we just, then he'll hop in another car. And we just kept on playing, having a good time. And it was just no big deal. And that's just how he lived his life. It's like, okay, it just broke, we'll fix it, and we'll continue. And I think there are many of you out here that he has touched in that way. It's just, things have happened. You've been hurt, he's healed you, your car's broken, he's fixed it. But his method of life was just one of fullness. He was just a man of integrity. We'd have conversations, and he didn't like anybody that didn't do it the right way or lied or cheated or stole. He was big on doing the right thing all the time. I will miss him, but in my heart, I saw him a couple months back. It was Danny Dog, but my memories of Danny are the fun times at Powell, the fun times at the sand dunes, and the fun times just going through life. So thank you very much.
Hello, everyone. My name is Richard Allegro, and almost 44 years ago, Dan and I met at chiropractic school. From the first day, we pretty much were fast friends. We, over the years, had our time away from each other. I was in one place, he was in another, but it always came back to us being friends, and we could pick up wherever we left off. There are a lot of times that Dan and I spent together, a lot of hours studying together. Something they say the opposites attract, and as you guys know, your dad was larger than life, and I won't say I was in his shadow, but we do attract because I wasn't nearly as large as he was, but we loved each other as brothers. A couple of memories I have of Dan and I, especially during his years of playing music. We'd be on the beach singing. He'd be playing guitar. We'd both be singing. And all we needed was a hat out there for some tip money, and we were having a great old time. So much so, when I saw Dan a couple of weeks before he passed, Mercy, you were there, I showed him a video of us singing on the beach, and Danny, as you said, he went right to us singing Roadhouse Blues by the Doors, and it was wonderful to see the spark come back into him. Another memory I have is, and I hope the police department people will close their ears on this one, was the traveling in his motorhome, and of course he's driving, and he says, I gotta take a pee. So of course he's standing up, and he has me slide in underneath him, and now I am driving the motorhome, and he let me continue on until we got closer to Tahoe, wherever we were. But he was always up for pretty much doing anything. In closing, I'll say that he was like a brother to me, and he will be missed dearly by so many, and we love him. Thank you, guys.
How's it going, everybody? My name's Paul. I'm honored to be here to talk about Dan. I lived next door to him for about 15 years. Every attempt I did to move, he wouldn't have it. Usually these things are pretty hard, but Dan, I mean, it's going to be easy. I could say so many things. I could literally be up here for hours. I want to start that I can confidently say, undisputably, Dan was the best human I've ever met in my entire life, confidently. Maybe I'm a little partial because he's everything that I aspire to be and everything that I want to see in myself, but just to me, there was no better human, hands down. He was giving, he was passionate, he was spontaneous, he was just all of the above when it came to everything. Whether you needed him to pull an entire motor out the same day, he was up for the challenge. He would pull it out. Every roadblock, every hiccup, he would find a way. He's so determined. Nothing could ever stop this man. If he wanted to do something, he was going to do it, and it was amazing. It was such an inspiration to see somebody, no matter what, he was always positive. He would always find a way. Nothing could stop this man. It was just amazing to see. He's just the ultimate role model. I can't say that enough. Seeing someone so mighty and powerful go through what he went through, it's just heartbreaking and agonizing for me to see. And it's just the ultimate reminder that at the end, we're all just human, and we have today's blessing, and we just need to enjoy it. You know, that's all we can do. Dan he's just a Superman to me. He's going to be forever missed, and there will never be anybody in this world like him, in my opinion. And Dan, I love the guy so much. He's just the greatest person. We used to battle every Wednesday. He would just come take my trash cans out every Wednesday, so I would meet him. I would try to race home to get home to beat him for the trash cans. He'd just take my trash cans, and if I had boxes laying out, he'd break them all down and put them in the trash can too. It's just amazing. The guy, like I said, I could be up here all day, but I'm going to close with, I'll forever miss you, Dan. You're a legend, one in a bajillion. It was a pleasure to know him.
Hi, my name's Josie, and Theo Dan was my uncle. He married into our gigantic family. Over the past few months, I was thinking about a memory that I couldn't shake. It was being in my abuelita's house on Christmas or Thanksgiving. We'd all be packed in the little kitchen, and he'd come in and he'd greet my grandmother with his made-up gibberish Spanish, which one of the words was "gitagote." I don't know what that meant, but he would always come in and say that to my grandmother and make her laugh. And I remember being little thinking, what the heck does that mean? Or he would call Tia Lourdes Tia Alert, because he couldn't say Lourdes. But he was bigger than life, and he was so kind and so giving and so warm to all of us. He is going to be missed, but I just wanted to share that story.
Well, thank you, Josie, Paul, Scott. During the next several minutes, about 10, we're going to enjoy something very special the family's prepared for us, and that's a video slideshow set to music. You may find yourself in some of these photographs, but mostly I'll just encourage you to allow yourself to be transported back to these memories, because these are what you draw strength from in the coming years. If you need to slip out to use the restroom during this video, feel free, just make your way to the lobby. Come right back, because our ceremony comes to a close in a very, very special way. But I want to direct your attention now to the screens. I could watch it all afternoon, sitting in your living room, and all the others as well. A couple of thoughts occur to me. First is the words of Jesus' earthly brother. James, in his letter, writes these words, blinkety blink. No, he didn't write those words. He wrote something similar to blinkety blink. What he said is, life is but a vapor that appears for a while, vanishes away. You kind of sense that when you watch a video like that. I heard a pastor one time say this: life can seem like your breath on a cold morning. It goes very fast. Mercy, I bet you would say this. You would say how quickly those days went by, and yet there were decades of them. I have the privilege, though, of sharing some good news, that the days we have on this earth are not the only days that we have. There is a life for sure that follows this one that never ends. There's actually a hint and a forecast in the Bible that somehow, where Danny is now, more alive than ever before in the presence of the Lord in heaven, that same heaven will one day be rejoined with this earth for a period of time. Whatever that mystery is to be seen, it's pretty exciting. And so for the next couple of minutes, I have the privilege of sharing with you some of the most important words, a single scripture captured by the beloved Apostle John in the 14th chapter of his gospel. For those of you who had the advantage of growing up in a church, you're going to look at the person next to you and go, I totally know this one. And I'm glad that you do. It's the most encouraging words from the Bible, in my opinion. But if you're like me and you didn't have that advantage of growing up in church, I think these could be the most important words you hear in this season of your life. I hope they're an encouragement to you. What I'm referring to is the moments before Jesus will face the cross, the historical moments following the 3 years of ministry that he did on the earth with his closest friends called the disciples. That was coming to an end. He had done things no one had ever done before. He came proclaiming a message of God's love and favor upon people, a kingdom available to anyone who would put their trust in him. He did things no one else ever did. He, at least on a couple occasions, touched and healed people born blind, and they saw for the very first time in their life. One time from a distance, he healed somebody just with a word, But he demonstrated to us God's love and affection. That was coming to an end as the tide turned against him. The Roman government, the religious leaders had plotted against him. And so he's going to face the cross. By the way, not for anything wrong he had done. He had lived his life perfectly pleasing to God. But he called his friends, the disciples, away from the crowd, and this is what he said to them. It mattered to them. They had hoped he'd set up an earthly kingdom at that time. He said, no, it'll be a spiritual kingdom in the hearts of those who put their trust in me. Later I'll come back. I will return and set up an earthly kingdom. What did he say to them? What does he say to us today? He said, don't let your heart be troubled. I know that you believe in God, but believe also in me. Do you not know that in my Father's house there are many rooms, and I'm going to prepare that place for you? Could I pause for a moment? Just for clarity's sake. In my Father's house, you know what he means, right? He means the life that follows this one. Call it heaven, that's okay. In my Father's house are many rooms, and I'm going to prepare that place for you. So where I am, you will be also. If I go, I receive you to myself. You know where I'm going. You know the way there. Here's the best part. If it weren't true, I would have told you. Isn't it nice to hear those words today? The authority of the universe, Jesus, the Son of the living God, said it's real. Have you ever wondered, is it for sure? It's for real. Why is he the authority of the universe? Because he did as he said. He went to the cross and he paid the penalty for mankind's sins so that any of us could stand before a holy God and he will treat us as righteous as his own son. He died a substitutionary death to pay the penalty for my sin. How wonderful that is. We have, as Danny discovered and this family of faith knows so well, they have full access to the God who made them, and he treats us as righteous as his own son. That's available for all of us. Well, I want to finish with this because oftentimes people have told me, Pastor Doug, I have a question based on what Jesus said. How can I be sure? How can I be sure that he's prepared that place for me? Oh, I'm so happy to tell you the answer. I'm going to take some liberty with all that Jesus ever said and reply on his behalf this way. Oh, I am perfectly pleased to prepare that place for you. I've been preparing it before the foundation of the world. I would only ask of you, as you live this life, you have a place for me in your own heart. Isn't that a great deal and a great exchange and a great privilege? Finally, then, you may wonder, what's that life like, that place like that Danny's entered into? I don't have time today to tell you, so I'll simply make this invitation. This church exists for that very purpose, to help anyone come into a personal relationship with the God who made them and to explain not only what awaits us in that life, but what's available to us in this life. Could I just summarize it and say it this way? As good as this life is, and wow, some of those days out around a campfire in Glamis can be pretty great, can't they? They really can. That place is actually better. Jesus said to the repentant thief on the cross next to him, today you'll be with me in what I can only describe as paradise. It's better because our relationships are no longer impeded by sin, all communication perfect and pure, based in love. And finally, don't miss this. As much as Danny discovered his earthly purposes, and they were many, weren't they? They are many. Now he's living out his eternal purposes. They'll be centered around people, of course, but as he lives those purposes out, he'll have an inner joy, and we'll be the beneficiaries of our relationship with him forever. And finally, God is there. The God who made you awaits you. He loves you, he likes you, and he's made a place for you. Our ceremony is going to come to a close after another song. It's a beautiful song, too. The song is going to be sung by Crystal. This is a family member, and it's right here waiting for you. I want you to just take this in, and then I'll be standing next to Courtney when it finishes, and we have something very special for everybody today. We're so glad you brought this song to us. Thank you.
Hi, friends. The wonderful human that we're celebrating today was my Theodan, because even though he was definitely a proud Irishman, he had the distinct honor of marrying into a huge, vibrant, loud Mexican family, which I think might have been a match made in heaven because he too was huge, vibrant, and loud. And so when I was about 10 years old, my Thea Mercy asked me before we began if I would share a little bit about why this song was so meaningful to them and to me. When I was about 10 years old, my cousin Danny came earthside, and his journey earthside was not easy, and there was a very extensive and lengthy hospital stay. And during that time, what I did not know is that my Tia Mercy and my Tio Dan had this experience where a lot of the times that they would go to visit Danny in the hospital, there was a song that would come on the radio. And it became kind of their anthem for their son. And what I did know is that my Tio Dan asked me to learn it. And again, I was 10 years old. And so in my own evolution as a musician, this was very impactful because it's one of the first songs that I ever learned by ear. And so my piano teacher worked with me, and I was very nervous, and I learned it. And so then during that time, when they would come over, my Tio Dan would be like, hey, can you play the song? So I'd be like, okay. And so I would sit down at the piano, and I would play, and he would stand behind me, and he would cry. And as a little girl, witnessing a grown man cry, it really impacts you. And what I loved about it was an opportunity for my soul to be present with his soul, and music would speak for us. And so life has taken me on a journey in which I was allowed to spend a great deal of time finding my own voice. And now I'm blessed to be able to be in a position to help other people find theirs. So even though there will be words this time, I am very thankful for another opportunity for my soul to be present with his soul and to let music speak for us. Oceans apart, day after day, and I slowly go insane. I hear your voice on the line, but it doesn't stop the pain. If I see you next to never, then how can we say forever? Wherever you go, whatever you do, I will be right here waiting for you. Whatever it takes, or how my heart breaks, I will be right here waiting for you. I took for granted all the times that I thought would last somehow. I hear the laughter, I taste the tears, but I can't get near you now. Oh, can't you see it, baby? You've got me going crazy. Wherever you go, whatever you do, I will be right here waiting for you. Whatever it takes, or how my heart breaks, I will be right here waiting for you. I wonder how we can survive this romance. But in the end, if I'm with you, I'll take the chance. Wherever you go, whatever you do, I will be right here waiting for you. Whatever it takes, or how my heart breaks, I will be right here waiting for you.
Crystal, thank you. In a moment, I'm going to invite everyone to stand for a closing benediction. It's just a prayer with a blessing tucked within it. Prior to that, Courtney's going to explain an Irish tribute that you're invited to participate in that will occur in the foyer. Following that prayer, just remain standing because we're going to hear our piper play a beautiful song. You'll recognize the tune. It's Amazing Grace. How many of you know this truth? It's not good and perfect people that go to heaven. Oh, I hope I didn't mess up your theology. No, it's not good and perfect people. It's only forgiven people. It's available to all of us. It's by God's amazing grace. As that song plays, just remain standing. As it gets near the end, I'm going to make my way with the family, and the song will change. It's a special song, and we're going to lead out, following the piper, to the foyer. You're invited then to come and follow us out there. Now listen to the tribute that we'll be doing in the foyer.
So I wanted to explain it quickly. called The Final Goodbye. It's an Irish toast. So it's an old Irish tradition that involves sharing stories and memories over Irishmen's drinks, which was often whiskey, and a lot of times it was Jameson. It symbolizes comfort, community, and celebrating the deceased life rather than just mourning their death. While not always a formal shot ceremony, raising a glass was a toast for a common way to honor the departed, connecting grief with celebration and shared history. After taking the shot, if you wish to partake, and of course we have red Solo cup shot glasses for him. If you turn the shot glass upside down, the upside down shot glass turning the shot glass upside down after someone has passed away is a traditional gesture to honor the deceased and to signify their absence. And then we say sláinte, which is Gaelic for cheers. If you guys would like to partake, you're welcome to. We, as a family, will be taking the shot together, and then you guys are welcome to take it at your leisure while you're visiting. No pressure, you don't have to partake, but if you would like to, we would love to have you honor him that way. Thank you.
You can just stay right with us, sir. Could I invite you to please stand where you're at this time? And again, following this prayer, just remain standing. And our piper will play our first song and then lead us out on the second song as well. God, with eyes wide open, as we behold one another, and especially this beautiful family that we appreciate so much, we want to say thank you because you have said yes to our earlier prayer. The tributes today have been wonderful and rich, and they have made us richer for it. May we always draw strength from what we've heard today and what we've known in the past of Danny, but we declare in this place that we can find Danny Sullivan, even more worthy to be loved, for he is perfected now and in your presence, as he shall always be, and in this we'll choose to rejoice. In Jesus' name, amen, and God bless you.